Hello, SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded. Especially during 2020, I did. So, in essence, for years before that, I consider ancient lost high technology somewhere between a scam and some cases where you see the people protecting it, it's verges on occult. So simply what I did was go and get some granite, go and get some copper, go and get some stones. Each of these experiments can be done in pretty much 2 hours is a good enough time. In some cases less than that to get very good results and just prove what is described as impossible or taking months or years to do. It can be measured in hours, and it can be done very cheaply. You can repeat all these experiments yourself, and because I didn't film them and post them in an order, so I'm putting a playlist together, experiments in granite and primitive technologies. In the video links themselves, I did not come up with this. I filmed and did it in real time to show you. It's like how-tos of how it's to be done. Anyone truly interested would have just searched stonemasonry, traditional stonemasonry, and should have found these things, especially if they're charging thousands of dollars to take people on tours of ancient sites and point at stones and say impossible, impossible, impossible. Now, for the first video, ancient stoneworking techniques, experiments with black granite. So this is in response to those impossible, for instance, Uncharted X. Nothing short of impossible to do this with copper or bronze tools. Well, actually that's saw marks later, but as you can see on the screen, we have actual circular saw marks on this piece of granite. Using the primitive techniques of rubbing sand, which is quartz. Sandstone, even the softest crumbly sandstone, has the same hardness as the hardest granite. When they talk about Moscal, it has to do with abrasives. That's really sandpaper. That's what we're talking about, sandpaper technology here. But with this experiment, in this first video, I actually have two. With my first experiment, I didn't know what I was. Again, all these things, I was a total noob. I didn't have generations of experience to lead me. I just grabbed some rocks and started rubbing them together, basically. All very cheap experiments. In some cases, it costs you nothing because you should be able to find a piece of sandstone. And at the stone suppliers, they'll let you go through their bins and get bits of granite cut-offs and stuff to do that type of thing. So this first video is two experiments with grinding saw marks out of granite. In essence, those circular saw marks, and you'll still see them on, again, they're not circular saw marks. I'll show you how they can be done without a giant steel circular saw. I did that as well. But anywhere from half an hour to an hour to remove these saw marks, whether they're straight or they're curved. So in places you'll see the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid or the Serapeum boxes where they still have these saw marks on there. Literally in to do the whole thing, it would take a small team a couple of days to grind them off. So that's the first experiment. I did that with now the second video, experiments in ancient technology, rough face granite to precision flatness. So what I did was get a split piece of granite. It wasn't even, it was more rough than a saw mark. So there you can see how the it splits. It's like that feather and wedge technique. It's split granite. Within 2 hours, and I'll show again in the video where you can see there. I'll get a better focus in the moment. Where I take a straight edge, I cannot shine a light underneath the straight edge. I'm getting precision flatness with basically rubbing two stones together and using. You don't even need to bring in sand. The hardest minerals in the granite that you're using is abrasive enough to grind it down. It's like cuts like. So if you get two bits of granite, break them in two, rub them against one another, they're going to abrade. They're going to grind down. If you can get higher quality, like more quartz, pure quartz, or the corundum, that again is mentioned in ancient sources and was literally found inside artifacts as well, this abrasive material. So again, there you can see in the screen, I can't get a light to shine underneath the straight edge. Precision flatness. This stone is more precise than the Serapeum boxes to get flatness down there. and each area you're working with takes about 2 hours. Couldn't be more simpler. It's mud and sand and rubbing two stones together to get the flatness. So that was the now I've placed this third. So then I took that stone which was honed. So there's a difference between polished and honed. Like perfectly flat stone, it doesn't have a polish on it, it's honed. Okay, by using the leftover mud, so I had big grains, they grind down to really smooth grains, and I just mixed them up in water. The heavy sits at the bottom, the light at the top, the fine of a grain. And this is about granite polishing experiment number 1. In half an hour to 45 minutes, you can, just using a block of wood and using very fine particles of granite dust or ground down sand or ground down corundum, literally the junk that's left over from drilling and cutting, or the dust on the floor of a quarry, is a perfect material to get a high grade polish. So rubbing a piece of wood against it, I'm doing it on a flat block, but even on a curved sculpture, because the wood will, as you grind the wood down, it's going to fit that shape. So you can, again, whether it's flat or curved, you can do it. And not only can you do it, you can do it in a very short time. If I'd used a bigger block of wood, I would have been polishing more of an area. So whatever the size of your polishing stone or polishing block of wood, it's half an hour to 45 minutes to get a polish on granite, just by old-fashioned, most primitive techniques going around. The next video is Lost Ancient High Technology, high-speed circular saws, 100% debunked with experimental archaeology. And so all that is, so I took a straight copper blade, and during these videos as well, I include other like historical sources in it. So, and then I put them in, so you have to watch the whole thing in real time. I just speed it up at 10 times speed. Although, so what I have is a copper blade. I took a block of wood. I just slid a piece of copper in the gap. It's the simplest, and it's a straight piece of copper. Now at the end of that video, because again it's just the nature of the way things work. So again, if you take a piece of wood and get a piece of steel. Now rub that piece of steel up and down. It's not going to create a square. There you go. See, there's all the striations in this. It's not a giant. I did not use a giant circular saw to cut these. All I used was a straight copper blade, and it gets cut down as well. Now again, this is on the very tiny width of the blade, is indicated by the lip of the edge of this cut. It is nothing short of impossible. No, it is actually very. Not only can you do it, you can recreate it as well. So this is one of these Lost Ancient High Technology. I often cite Christopher Dunn. He's some super master engineer, works in manufacturing. Wow, like really wow with this stuff. Unbelievably, like literally they've never done an experiment, or they have, and it's just a silliness. Now the way I did it was the worst way, because I just did it like a one-handed and a small copper blade. If I had added weight to it, and also like during these, because I also calculate how much copper is lost. Another point is that you don't lose any copper, because in the mud left over from cutting, the copper is in there. You can pan it out, and you don't lose any copper during that process. And the blade I just made has got a copper tube, modern 99.9% copper tube. I'll come to that in a moment, because the Egyptians didn't have pure copper. They had copper alloys. They couldn't make pure copper. That's a very complex thing. Now there's the saw blade, and just rubbing back and forth, I was able to create a circular saw mark. If you want to do a big, and I have no weight, so I was just pulling the piece of wood back and forward. If I had added weight to the top of it, you would cut even faster. But again, just one of these, it costs a few dollars. You sit down for a few hours and you do it, and you can do this. Now, the next one, okay, that's not technically experiment, but is a sort of, I posted it first, but it would be a good follow-up from that previous one, because I show examples of pendulum saws. And so up until the machine age, people were cutting giant blocks of granite, and they were using just the same method, abrasion, but they had a big saw, a push saw or a pendulum saw, which would also create those supposed circular saw marks. Again, more and more experiments are being done in this. I must admit that the people at Mark Lerner, for instance, the experiments that they do and that the Lost High Ancient High Technology people keep showing. They won't show you all of them. They only show you the ones that didn't work so well and were done quite poorly. But a lot more making stone vessels with primitive technology. I'll put, again, you'll find the links to other videos in the descriptions to each of these. Again, this one's not an experimental one, but it's in regards to those supposed unexplainable claw marks that you see in the quarry. These are just standard quarry marks, and you see that's in Sydney. This was done, this is standard. These unexplained claw marks are just standard quarry marks as well. Again, in regards to quarrying as well, again, I did a small experiment in this video, but it's an example of, and include other people showing fire setting. I often talk, you need massive height, granite is actually very weak stone, especially in regards to fire. Even just with a campfire, you can heat up granite, but also show other quarrying techniques. Here you go. That's if you know what you're doing, you can break granite even just with the feather and wedge or the chiseling, breaking up those pieces. Granite will break along the line that you need to do, and then you just grind it down like that earlier experiment to create those smooth sides on the edges there. But in the next one after that, granite cataclysm of malicious sentience or ancient fire setting, and all I did was get some granite stone, put it in a campfire, put some, you don't even need it to heat it up. It'll start cracking on its own. And so and the more experienced you are at it, you can apply this sort of better, like I'm just showing the principle. But in ancient sites, there's the evidence of fire setting is there. So breaking up quarrying granite is not a difficult process, and primitive techniques are probably more efficient and quite fast as well. It only takes a campfire to do this. You don't need these super cataclysms that come out. So this Brian Foster always says, this could only be broke. Look at the shape, it's broken. No, I replicated that same damage. It's fire setting can do this. In the historical record, for instance, Cambyses, with fire and iron, he broke the obelisks and the sculptures in Egypt. The next series in that list is a whole bunch of various experiments using copper tubes to drill, and how to make that, again, just using a sand abrasive to drill those holes, using a wooden frame to begin the hole. There's nothing at all difficult, and I've got a video on this as well in regards to the archaeological evidence of these tools being used. This type of tool I'm showing here was used. The hieroglyph in ancient Egypt for stonemasons drill is this tool. And again, the granite, it takes a short time to get good progress to do this. Now, you might, unlike the other experiments, which is just like rubbing copper against granite or rubbing stones against granite to get precision flatness and make those circular saw marks, you might need to spend a few hours to get your technique right. But again, once you get the technique and you get used to using it, you can do this in a really short time. Up to about, I got up to about 1.5 centimeters, 15 mils per hour. So core 7, for instance, in about a day, a little over, in a long day, I could drill out core 7 in one day. And there's even, but those larger core holes, they might take up to 2 or 3 days to do. But it's not months, it's not years. And where all of these experiments are my like first attempt, total noob, no experience, no guidance to very, very little guidance. The one that it follows after that, again, it's sort of just a how-to and explaining the principles, but I just use crushed sandstone. I just got to, again, just to, you don't need, like this thing, you need diamond technology. A bigger piece of rubbish has not ever been said in the history of the world. And also, if you remember the last one, I had a larger weight, so I've been experimenting. What's easier to use? I preferred the smaller weight to the heavier one, but then I went back to the heavier weight afterwards. But again, this is one where I just show with sand, just broken sandstone, crush it up, use that as your abrasive. There's nothing to it. This video as well, will be some repetition because each video I was assuming that you haven't seen all the other ones, so I will repeat certain principles such as abrasion, the basic techniques of it. In this video, I didn't use copper. What I used was a plastic PVC pipe. Again, just to show, just like it's not the copper that cuts. They didn't have steel, they only had copper. The copper does not cut, the steel does not cut, the abrasive cuts. It's the same principle with sandpaper. The paper doesn't cut, you can polish down granite with sandpaper. It's not the paper doing it, it's the friggin' sand. This is from expert engineers and this type of, and people who've been studying for decades, give me thousands of dollars to go on a tour. The video that follows after that is, so what you'll often see, I think I've already, I might have missed one, I'll add that in there, in regards to tapering as well. I might have missed that video out in the playlist, I'll add that in. Yes, I did, because what they say is it's impossible to create the tapering as seen here in Core 7. Not only is it not impossible, it's inevitable that you get this tapering. So I'll add that list I'll add this and put it in the order on the playlist. I'm just saying outright, there was one experiment done by Chris Dunn, which was a 5 centimetre deep core, which had 1 millimetre of tapering, half a miller on either side. I call that explicitly, there it is, that's the link, but I'll put that debunked. Not only is the tapering inevitable by using a top-heavy drill, I'm saying with no fear of contradiction that Chris Dunn forged his supposed hand-drilled granite core because it is just impossible not to get the taper on there, and that he did this by a machine. So I'm literally fraud. Anyone is welcome to try and replicate his experiment as he describes. I did it, and it's just fake. It's not wrong or wrongly interpreted or misunderstood. It is a deliberate and actual fraud, and it's part of a pattern, just like with the Serapeum and those perfect corners in there. I've got to remember, I'll put that link. Tapering, it is inevitable, not and the deep groove. So you can't replicate the tapering. Yes, you can. If it's impossible not to replicate the tapering. And the deep grooves, no, it's got to do with the grit size. No mystery at all. It's like unbelievably wrong, embarrassingly wrong, and it's almost you have to go out of your way and deliberately be that wrong. But of course, these people do not a single experiment. Chris Dunn's experiments are frauds. I'll say it again. This is published. There's liable laws. Come at me, mate. Do your best, you bloody fraud. This one just explains fluvial abrasion, basically water abrasion, why these grooves are formed in the video. That's Core 7 and how the grooves are formed without a fixed point. Next one, Lost Ancient High Technology of Stone Cores, Part 3, Polished Cores on Granite 7. Again, this is just a cringe fest, especially Christopher Dunn. He's still saying this in his own experiment, and I use screenshots from his own site where he describes his own experiment. He used 80 grit abrasive. 80 grit is, you go to the hardware shop and the second or the third most rough sandpaper that you can get is 80 grit. For someone to be surprised that you did not get a polished, so I got polished surfaces because I used fine grit. I got rough surfaces on other ones because I used a large grit. But the point is, like, for him, he doesn't understand sandpaper. This is high school stuff, and he used 80 grit, and you're surprised he got no polish. You could rename 80 grit the depolisherizer. It's going to remove a polish. It's cringe. So the next one, Lost Ancient High Technology Industry, exposed again. It's just incompetence or just a scam. I use wood and copper to break out the cores. Chris Dunn, in his core experiment, claims to have, so for instance in this video again I explain copper, how you harden copper and these other features. In Chris Dunn's alleged experiment, where we see the shot coming up, so what he claims that he could not remove his core with a copper tool. There you see the damage to the tool. Remember, it was only there's a couple of millimeters. So how did he get that in there? So first it would have been ultra thin. But again, I'm saying I cannot believe that he did not remove that. I simply don't. He says you need a steel chisel or a steel wedge to remove it out. No, you actually need wood or copper. Again, in this, I did it more than once, and I did it even with a really shallow core. Granite lends itself to this, just like with the feather and wedge. Granite breaks along the line, so it will with a copper or a piece of wood. So again, not only do I think it's not even bad science, I think it's fake science in this experiment again, and anyone is welcome to replicate these things. It's very cheap, it's very easy. The next video is ancient Egyptian stoneworking drills and boring tools, techniques re-examined. Now, again, because I assume some SGD, School of Granite Drilling. That's a name someone gave me. I thought I liked that. Literally in the Egyptian hieroglyphs and in their paintings of them, for instance, drilling out the stone vessels, they depict this type of drill. So the drill I'm using is not a modern invention, reverse engineered to fit. It is the stonemason's drill hieroglyph is the hieroglyph which shows this tool, and it's shown. You can see them in wall paintings. I even show like the original wall paintings. Those are illustrations based on those. But for instance, the tomb of Rek Mure, but even Old Kingdom, the hieroglyph for the stonemason's drill is a top-heavy flywheel drill. I think I might have missed one along the way because, yes, okay. Now, speaking of this ancient Egyptian flywheel drill, so there's a Scientist Against Myth channel. You'll find their links. So just awesome work that they've done. I've just replicated their experiments and then looked at other features and sort of added to it a little bit. But the point is that this type of drill is not only in the historical record. In this particular video, primitive ancient Egyptian core drilling technology is the best technology. By that time I'd got pretty good at it. I could even improve. I just painted part of a drill and I did my RPM, the revolutions per minute. I can get consistently 300. I can get up to 420 revolutions per minute. And in this video I'll then show modern stonemasons who talk about using machines, the optimal rate for getting what's the best speed to drill granite. And it turns out that they're giving approximately 350 RPM, 35 millimeter core, so it's pretty much the same size I was using. 350 RPM is the optimal. That's what you get from these Egyptian drills, mate. All right, now 100 millimeter diameter should be rotated at 190 RPM. The larger you get, the slower you should go. So modern analysis, modern tool machine builders are just again showing that the ancient Egyptians had their stuff together. Now back to the list in the order it was. Ancient Egyptian copper and granite core holes, response to an FAQ, frequently asked question. So it was basically how do you make these, like I went to the hardware shop, got a copper tube. I'm not going to set up a metal work in my backyard, but by getting a sheet of copper, wrapping it around, that's how you can make a large or small diameter tube. There was one tubular drill found that's mentioned by Dennis Stocks, but the point of also that these tools is that your copper is valuable. You don't make a tube drill and then just throw it away. You can recycle it and then make a chisel out of it, make jewellery out of it. But in this video, and again I'll link those in the description, so they make a tube by wrapping a sheet of copper. Unbelievable. I get people who, I can't, so making large diameter cores, and with a really simple mould, You can even make a proper one-piece tube in there as well. So that'll be in the description, in the playlist, sorry. And so every feature that they talk about, the impossible to replicate, is just absolute rubbish. If they had done any experimentation at all, they would know this, or they have done. Again, they're claiming to be experts. They're charging people for this. They always say, "Oh, the burden of proof is on the opposition." No, it isn't. The burden of proof is on you, and find an explanation. But one of the things, it's a perfect helical spiral. It's a No, it's not. And just recently, the Scientists Against Myth published this because they went to the Petrie Museum and took high-resolution imagery of that Core 7, which is the one that they always talk about. But the thing is, they didn't even need to do that, because even the older pictures by Chris Dunn conclusively, undeniably, show that these are not a perfect helical spiral. And I show the new high-res photos, which there is no spiral there. But even the older pictures used by these Lost High Technology researchers show that the groove passes over one another. The distances between the grooves are just all over the place. That they could say this is just remarkable. I can't understand. It's some form of delusion, or it's a scam. But what they say is just, some things you might argue, even though incorrectly argue, but for those to say, it's a helical spiral, no, it isn't. You just look at the pictures that they provide that proves it. But again, recent high-res photos, which has created a 3D map of the whole surface, absolutely proves that the spiral is not in there. All these things that you hear about Core 7 or any of the Egyptian cores, it's impossible, you can't replicate it. Every single one of them is wrong. Remarkably wrong, entirely wrong, embarrassingly wrong. So that video, Lost Ancient High Technology in Core 7, the party is over. The party's over, it's finished in this drilling. The drills are effective, the drills are in, again, go back to the Old Kingdom. They're described there. Their RPM is perfect for optimal drilling. Everything that they needed was there. Okay, so Core 7, that drilling is over. And so that video, again, this one is not it includes examples of doing the work, but the previous videos I go into more detail, I literally just film myself doing it, and then you can repeat it at home for a few bucks and a couple of hours work. These guys charge thousands of dollars, and they're not willing to put in any work, and they can't even drop a few dollars on getting some basic materials. Grab a piece of stone and rub it together, for heaven's sake. Next video is ancient copper and stone tools. The more you know, really, regarding the Lost Ancient High Technology industry, and that includes so I'll say stone tools don't work, or stone tools take too long. It is just not true. Again, in these videos I show examples in regards to the properties of copper, how to work hardened copper, what's the difference, and that's pure modern copper. And other examples of I just grabbed, people of Scientists Against Myth team and myself, I grabbed a piece of granite and I just banged away with a stone. Total noob again. I improved my technique, and there is a technique to these things, and just with half an hour of practicing I really improved hugely. And so again, just a short amount of time working on these things. And so obviously these people who've spent thousands of hours editing and traveling have not spent 10 minutes rubbing stones together, and they claim to be experts. It is it's a scam. They should be ashamed of themselves. They're asking money for bunk, and they're either dishonest or lazy because they haven't done a single friggin' thing. Okay, now this is not one of my videos. The next one, I'm sure the translation will be out in English soon on the Lost Scientists Against Myth channel. They just basically got a piece of granite. They took pounding stones. They worked at it for a while. They measured. So, okay, now one of them, it's sad and funny. You'll see all these Lost Ancient High Technology guys. They go to the Aswan quarry and they lose, for some reason, they lose all coordination, and then they're like, oh, bang, bang, bang. Oh, you can't. How can you do this? It's like It's like one of those mop commercials you see, infomercials where the person in the old-fashioned mop like suddenly just loses all balance and coordination and is falling down. But yet when they get the new fancy mop, they're all smiles and happiness. All they did was, then there are other examples, again these links in the description, they went out and banged on a piece of granite out in the wild and made a nice corner. Again, total noobs, didn't have the experience, they're not driven by any sort of philosophy or whatever, but they took the granite, hit it with the pounding stones, and then they weighed it to find how much material is removed in how much time. And essentially they've proven, and this was already well known, and this is the sad thing about it, these things have been shown, but the Lost Ancient High Technology industry won't tell you about it, or they're intellectually lazy and haven't looked into it. But I think the clip is there at the end. Okay, so for instance, the unfinished obelisk at Aswan, using stone pounders, it would take a work team of and work teams in Egypt were arranged in groups of about 100. In about 9 months, they could cut out this obelisk. That's a work team of 100. That's not even using fire setting. If they were using fire setting, they would knock this off in probably 1/3 of the time. But even let's just say 6 months, but again, maybe down to 3 months using fire setting. So even just with a stone tool, 9 months, one work team, not so much. Again, they're not. There's only a small amount of these large obelisks in Egypt. They're not infinite. A lot of work went into them. They were quite difficult to make. But these can be done just with a stone tool, one work team working for about 9 months. And so for a pharaoh, send one work team off. That's nothing. But using fire setting, you could knock off and get the Aswan unfinished obelisk done in a very, very short time. So that's why I include that video, even though it's in Russian, the images give it away. And last of all is, in the other videos I show examples of how to work. I think they've only experienced copper in primary school when you do those craft experiments. But work hardened copper, by basically banging or bending a piece of copper, you work harden it, it turns exactly the same metal into something much, much harder. And in this video, ancient Egyptian copper is actually arsenical copper and arsenical bronze. Analysis of the jewelry and artifacts and also the tools of Egypt show that it is not pure copper, because pure copper is expensive to make in that sense. What they naturally had was arsenic inside the copper, which makes it a copper alloy, which is much harder. And again, now I include the papers and studies that have been done, because the amount of arsenic in some of these artifacts and details show that, for instance, 3% arsenic. 1% arsenic or below is called arsenical copper, because that can happen naturally by the minerals that are in the ore. Arsenical bronze is defined as anything above 1% arsenic, and we see up to 3.1% arsenic. The ancient Egyptian copper tools were arsenical bronze, and arsenical bronze on the Vickers scale. So Mohs scale is to do with abrasion. Vickers scale is much more applicable to making hammers and so forth. The Egyptian tools that survive and have been studied are equivalent to mild steel on Vickers hardness. They are much hard. It's not that soft copper that you get in arts and craft. It's a much harder material. And again, this is the academics have done it and studied this, and it's just one of those things that you won't hear in the Lost Ancient High Technology crowd. And I got many other videos, but this is the basics. These are the experiments and a few follow-ups and analysis of what's going on here. It's the experiments you can repeat at home, and I always include my sources and the links to find in there. And again, Brian Foster, Uncharted X, NEXT, Christopher Dunn, and all these channels it's true, it's not nice, either ignorant or lazy when it comes to this. You cannot do it, or it take weeks, or it's impossible, it can't be done, no, absolutely not. And I dare them to do any experiments. I dare them to we'll do a debate live stream, and I'll friggin' work a piece of granite while it's going on, and even if it's an hour or 2 hours, I'll do the impossible with there. And this is not my invention. This is based on earlier works. Lucas and Dennis Stocks and others who have done experiments, and the Scientists Against Smith team, and just science. So there's just so much bunk in regards to this. And I must say, in the case of Christopher Dunn, actual fraud. He did not drill his granite core. He did not drill it the way he says. It's impossible not to get a taper. So it's not just about being wrong. That's just a lie. Okay, cool. That's nice. Dirty copper, because it's a dirty lie, and a dirty lie. It is fraud. And again, liable. Send the lawyers, mate. Please. I would love to. That would be, I'll bankrupt you, mate, in lawyers' fees, because I don't need a team to prove this. This can be just done by experiments. This would wipe the floor with them. That's why they never have debates outside of their own little incestuous group. They'll always tell you, don't listen to the academics, or but look at this experiment from 30 years ago, it didn't work, and blah, blah, blah. They just keep showing that same one over and over again, and they never give the larger information, because it's a scam. It's a scam. They ain't got the guts to come out of their little it's an incestuous little network. Everyone backs each other up, and each cites each other, and it's a circle jerk is what it is, and it's based on ignorance or fraud, or healthy mixture of both. But here's the playlist. You can do these experiments. They're very cheap, they're very easy, and they don't take very long either. So you just have to imagine, if you can do this on your first couple of tries with just some basic instruction, and because in these experiments, like I didn't know what I'm doing, and so, but again, within half an hour, I'm greatly improved, because you work out the tricks, you learn on the job. And so this can all be proven beyond doubt. There's no, you can do them for yourself, and just imagine. And they said, but then build me this is a common response. But build me a pyramid. I'm not a friggin' pharaoh. I don't have thousands of men at my disposal, but I can work out how long it takes to cut, to polish, to drill, to grind, and then I can figure, well, if I can do it, I get 100 other guys doing it. How much would we do in a day? We would chew through the stone quarries in this time. Now, if you've got, I'm not, of course I'm not going to build a friggin' pyramid. I don't have it cost, what's the work and safety laws compared to now, and I can't afford, a company to go out and do it. I'd gladly join a volunteer team, but if you want to, say, go make me a pyramid, or that I should spend months and months making a stone vase, such as what Olga is doing in Russia, well, you're a jerk. F off, you friggin' idiot. With these comments, it's stupid. I'm not a pharaoh. Of course, I don't have thousands of people, but if I can do it, and I'm not even good at it, I'm just starting. And then you multiply it by 100 or 200 or 1,000 people working well within what a king or even a local lord would be able to pull up in terms of labour. So again, it's dealing with these, they're defending frauds, and it's cult. It's a cult. It's a dogma. All of a sudden they become skeptics when they're shown evidence. But when someone just points at a stone and says, that must be pre-dynastic, you can't do that with copper. Then they clap and celebrate. Yes, it must be true, because your high priest said it's true. Well, your high priest is full of crap. Sorry, and lazy, and just and so I have. There's no point being sort of often. You should be more compassionate, and these guys censor information which contradicts them. And in the video, it's all, well, give me your opinions in the comments, but then they remove the comments. They're disingenuous. They're not honest. They're not truth seekers or whatever as well. So I don't play nice anymore. If you're going to be a moron, mate, I'm going to tell you, not only are you wrong, but you're a moron and your logic is lacking. Sort of like, I should build a pyramid. Literally, I get people saying that. build me a pyramid. Well, firstly, you know that the pyramids are full of rubble on the inside. So again, they don't. Anyway, but it's you know, I'm old school. You know, I don't tolerate fools, and I think that's one of the new think is, you know, all opinions are equal, and you got to be nice to everyone. Well, stuff that, you know, stuff that. I don't, but you know. Because if not all opinions are equals, and if someone's a fool, you're doing them a favour by calling them that. You know, how would they not know that they're a fool if someone didn't tell them? Because obviously they don't have the intelligence to work it out for themselves. Anyway, with that rant finished, there's the playlist in there. You can repeat. These are experiments that I've done and filmed and posted. It's not theoretical. It's demonstrable and easily repeated. And again, it's it's remarkable that these lost ancient high technologists have made an industry out of bamboozling people. And I often get people, but you know, ancient, you know, I shouldn't compare them to ancient aliens because, you know, this channel doesn't believe in aliens. I should compare them to ancient aliens because they say exactly the same thing ancient aliens say. But it's, instead of aliens, they say it's a lost high civilization. But both that ancient aliens guy and these people say it can't be done. It's impossible, it will take remarkably long. Here's Mohs scale when they're talking about hammers and stuff like that. So you can compare them because they're saying exactly the same thing. That they've just, you know, one guy's saying it was the Smurfs, the other guy is, you know, saying it was, you know, insert video game comic book character over here. It doesn't matter. But the fact is that the facts that they're dealing with and the basis of their arguments are just, you know, incredibly wrong. Bjecki Peterson wrong. Okay, so there's a playlist. Here's you don't even need to watch his video. I just wanted to advertise the playlist, and I'm going to do a second playlist, which is based on the other debunks as well. This is based on the experiments. And from these experiments, well, the second playlist will be, well, look at what these people say about Pumapunka or whatever. It is ridiculous. It is, it's one of those, I don't know whether to laugh or cry, but whatever it is, it's just really, really bad, really, really bad. And they're dumb. And why is it so important? Because people are going to learn. What if a child gets exposed to this nonsense and grows up, you know, oh, I can't do that. You can't cut granite. Well, you're contributing to the dumbing down of society. They're making the world the idiocracy that is in that movie, and they're doing, you know, and they're making a profit from it as well. So it's just shameful. Okay, rant over. That's the video. Playlist in the description. I forgot to add one. I will add it to there in regards to tapering, and indisputable proof that Christopher Dunn is an outright fraud. Not wrong. There's a difference between being wrong and being a dirty liar, and that's what he is. He's a dirty liar. Cheers.